If you were a kid of the 1980s, you've probably seen Terminator in 1984. But have you ever heard of a vehicle that basically was built in 1984, the same year that the Terminator was released? And that was this, a legendary vehicle that was made from military until Arnold Schwarzenegger made it a road vehicle, and it was perfectly made for Hollywood action heroes such as himself. This is the Hummer, and we are going into the lore of why this Hummer was perfect for the Terminator, and I'll be back. So let's talk Hummer. In 1984, AM General Corporation produced a new military vehicle between the 1980s and 1990s. Since the Jeep MB Willys was out of production since the 1950s, AM General decided to step in with a new military contract and decided to make this thing, the High Mobility Multi-Purpose Military Vehicle, also known as Humvee. Why? Because Humvee is basically a short term for the long purpose name High Mobility Multi-Purpose Military Vehicle. So, I'm gonna elaborate the whole meaning of this vehicle. The Humvee basically gave birth to one of the most successful but yet undiscrutinized vehicle of all time. That was the Hummer. Why? Because the Hummer was discontinued in 2019 since the global economic crisis led to the GMC downfall of this vehicle. So the only question many people would have asked is, why do people say that the Hummer was basically made for the Terminator? Well, the reason for that is because of Arnold Schwarzenegger's influence in military work during his time in the Austrian military. He saw these giant Humvees drive past him while filming a movie called Kindergarten Cop in 1991. That was the very first year that he saw the military Humvees drive past him. And guess what? 1999 was also the first time that GMC bought the rights to Hummer. And during the early 1990s, the Gulf War approached, and that was the time when Arnold Schwarzenegger saw these military Hummers. And he said, "I want a Hummer for personal use." However, AM General denied this idea since the military Humvees were not made for civilian purposes and they're only made for military corporations. However, Arnold Schwarzenegger persisted, and his persistence finally paid off, thus making the release of the newer model in 1992 dubbed the Hummer H1. Because of the H1 basically was designed after the High Mobility Multi-Purpose Military Vehicle made for the US military in 1989 and 1990. So what exactly happened to the Hummer after it was discontinued 26 years ago? Well, it's simple. They never brought it back until 2022 gave us something that was specifically was left of the Hummer, the Hummer HV, also known as the Hummer EV. That means electric vehicle Hummer. So why did Hummer's downfall became the success thanks to Arnold Schwarzenegger? Well, because one of the major things that Arnold Schwarzenegger never even reveals is that he actually has owned a military tank. Yes, I'm very serious about this. The Austrian actor who played the Terminator actually drove a tank and owned one himself. Despite the overgrowing popularity of the Hummer soon died out in 2017, thus making it the final year of the original gasoline-powered Hummer. The Hummer was basically powered by the Duramax V8 diesel power plant, a massive power plant known for its gas-guzzling combustion capability. Because of that was the reason on why the Hummer was discontinued. And many people say that the Hummer from 1992 was meant for one thing. It was meant for the Terminator. Why? Because its big and powerful presence really does feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Hummer was So powerful it could basically survive almost anything, except for the point getting shot by a rocket missile attack, which could basically destroy the vehicle upon impact. Another special capability of the Hummer is that if you look closely at the front edge of the bonnet actually has this cadding right onto the nose of its hood. Many people wonder what exactly that even does. Well, it's simple. That metal cadding that you see on the front nose of the Hummer, that is not actually decoration. That is the heritage of the military Hummer being strapped to a parachute. I am very serious. This Humvee can actually get off the aircraft from about a dozens of feet by just wearing a parachute like the soldiers were using to parachute down to the ground. And the real reason why everyone loves the original analog Hummer because it really feels like a military vehicle for everyday use. Many people celebrated the Hummer as not just a vehicle, but it's also the perfect vehicle that was made by an Austrian legend, and that legend was Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Hummer, it's big, it's mean, it's powerful. Its legendary presence was not just the Terminator, it was the personality of what a big car can actually do for the rest of the world. When it all comes down to an end, the last known Hummer was the H3, and thus preceding that to the Hummer EV in 2022, making it the new Hummer that basically was nothing like the originals were. What makes the military Hummer so different is that the military Humvee was nothing like this, and in fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger owned a slantback. That means the slantback was made by the Humvee back in 1989 and 1990, thus making it one of the most legendary sought after vehicles that were basically rare to find nowadays since Hummer was discontinuing its gasoline powered production and left with a Hummer EV in 2022, thus making it a regular shift day's work for the Humvee. When the military Humvee was first released in 1989, many people say, "I'll be back." Because when they think about Humvees, they think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's cooperation with AM General finally succeeded, and that succession led to the birth of one of the most powerful vehicles on the road today, and that was the Hummer, a massive military-style vehicle that was originally made for military use, but thanks to the Terminator himself, the Hummer was now celebrated as a road vehicle. For celebrities to everyday drives to car shows, the military Humvee wasn't just a military machine. It's a war machine that dedicated itself for the action hero who now became California's governor in 2003. And Arnold Schwarzenegger really was the face of the Humvee. Without the Humvee, Arnold Schwarzenegger would have never made the first ever road civilian Humvee. And that is the story of the Hummer. And I'll be back. And what I truly love about the military Humvee is that although it's basically too big, but Arnold Schwarzenegger's presence about it and his origins in the military was absolutely spot on. And that was how Arnold Schwarzenegger fell in love with the Hummer.